Hey folks, Pete here. My last video we went over a few things that I wasn't crazy about on this DK tractor, and one of the things was the hard stop on the 3-point hitch arm down below didn't. The other thing that bothers me, probably more than anything else, is this locking mechanism right here. So this mechanism right here is designed so when you lower your 3-point hitch, you want it at a certain level. You only want it to go down a certain amount. That's the hard stop. Well, watch this. I've got that tight and I can push that thing right out of the way. So it's essentially useless. You couldn't tighten it enough to keep it from moving. So today we are going to fix that. And to start with, I'm going to remove this whole console, remove the handle off the 3-point hitch arm first, then remove this console. We'll bring it inside and make the modifications. I got all the parts I need, and I'm going to take care of this once and for all. Should be pretty straightforward. Okay, all we're going to need for tools is let's move this up here. Just need a Phillips to loosen this screw here to get this handle off so that we can pull the cover over the top. Oh, doing this one-handed is a little trickier. Okay, so that's just a little flathead screw. Put that up there. This should pop right off, which it does, the handle. Now there's 4 10mm bolts that need to get pulled out. Once I get these pulled out, we'll move inside and get some better light on the situation, and I'll show you how we're going to take care of that problem. Okay, so now those bolts are out. This just slides right out of there. Both those mounting bolts are still in here, so let's get those out. Put those in the little compartment there, like so. And there we go. That is out. We'll bring it inside and get to work. Okay, so we're inside now where it's warm. And let's take a look at how this thing's designed and how it works. Basically, there's these slots in the plastic, and there's these edges on each side here are smooth. And this nut right here has a flat plate welded to it. So when you put the screw from the top here, which is this little plastic black thumb screw here, that slides back and forth. When you tighten this, it's supposed to squeeze this flat surface up against this surface so that it won't slide. The trouble is, I don't know if we can get down in there and see it or not. The trouble is this. The way this is set up, this is plastic, the head of this, and this is plastic. So that's what's clamping it from this side, and then we have that plate that's clamping it from the other side. The trouble is this plastic on this plastic, one, is slippery, but two, if you look real close, I'll take it apart and we'll take a look and see how this goes together. So if you look real close, there's a spacer here, right, that goes on top of that piece. And then here you'll see there's no metal washer or anything, it's just plastic. So when this goes in here, let me get it started. All right, let's do this again. So you can actually see how this is nice and smooth on this side. This side, there's some grooves in it. That was a first attempt of mine to try and get this thing to grab better, is I took a file and put the corner of the file on this, and I
put some grooves in that so it would grab the plastic better. And that helped a lot, it really did. But I want to go all the way with this and make it usable. So this spacer right here, when you tighten this down, it tightens that screw before it really gets a chance to clamp on that plastic piece. So even though when you put this in here, like so, even though you put this in here and you tighten this down, you can still slide this back and forth. And you see it's better now that I put the grooves in it. But it's plastic on plastic right here. And with that spacer under there, I'm seeing that the screw is actually tightening down on that spacer and not really giving it a lot of clamping force between this surface and this surface. So we're going to fix that. And how we're going to do that is like this. First part was to put some grooves in this. And I put them in crossways so that when this is in the slot, like that from the bottom, that these would act, they would kind of bite into that plastic and it would give it some more friction sliding. The second piece is we're going to put a washer on top here as well, which is going to make sure that any clamping force we have gets put between these two plastic surfaces and not in tightening down this bushing that's in between. So this would certainly help, but we're going to take it one step further. So that one step further is this. We're going to take a washer now, and we're going to put those same grooves in it like we did on that square piece that goes on the bottom side. We're going to put a couple of good size grooves in here. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy, just want to rough this surface up so it has something to bite with on that plastic. And what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to put some grooves in two directions, because there's no way for me to know for sure if this washer is going to be lined up like this one, because it has this ear on it that sticks up through the plastic. I know that these are always going to be perpendicular to the movement. With the washer under the screw, it could rotate. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put some grooves in it in both directions here. So even if it's at a 45, it'll have something to bite onto. And this would work better if I could put this in a little clamp or something, but it's cold out and I don't even like being in the garage. So almost done. Let's put a couple more over here. And I'm using the edge of this file. This is like a half round file. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's flat on one side and round on the other, but it gives that a sharp kind of edge on both sides. And that edge is what I'm using here to put all these grooves in. Okay, very good. Okay, so now we are going to put this back up through the bottom. Put the spacer in there. And then that spacer sits slightly below this surface. But the problem is this screw, if you look at the bottom of this screw, is the plastic's kind of like bent up. It's hard to tell. It's tapered a little bit. So it was tightening on this bushing before it was clamping. So we're going to take the side now with all the rough marks in it. We're going to set that right there. And long enough. I bought a couple of screws to use here. So there's a couple ways you could do this. If we use this screw, we'd have to keep a 10mm wrench in the tractor, which might be a little bit cumbersome. So what I did is I bought an M6 bolt with a hex head in it, and we're going to use that. And I had a spare one of the Allen key for this size kicking around. And now I can actually put a little bit more force on this with that Allen key. I don't have to put a lot in it. But with doing that, there's no way that that's going to move now. There's nothing. There's no way that's going to slide. Now we've got really good clamping force now. This surface is digging into the plastic under here, those grooves. The surface of this washer on the bottom side is grabbing onto these surfaces. And we've got a screw in there. And with the washer, I don't know if we can move this or not, but you can see that bushing now, it's loose in there. Basically, all it is it's a guide for me to get the screw down in there now. And with a little bit of a tightening force with this Allen key, we can set this anywhere we want. Just give it a little snug like so, and there's no way that's moving. So now that we got this together, I'm going to leave this in one of the little compartments there, the storage compartments in the tractor on the fender, so that I always have access to it. This isn't something that I move every time I use the tractor. It's really only used when I'm using the Harley rake and I'm using the flail mower or the box scraper. So when I'm using those attachments, I'll just use my little trusty Allen key that I'll keep in the tractor, make my adjustment where I need it, and once I find where it needs to be, I'll be able to snug this down and not have to worry about it. I'll be able to take the lever and hit it against this, even though I'd try not to hit it hard. But before, as soon as it's just small little taps over time, it would slowly move it. Let's put this back in the tractor, and we'll put the handle back on the lever, and then I'll show you that even hitting this relatively hard, that this is not going to move anymore. And I think this is probably the simplest fix. Literally, once you have the bolt and this washer, it takes about 5 minutes to put the gouges in the washer and that bottom piece, and then just put it back together. And this just goes back in with these 4 10mm bolts, and we'll put the handle back on the lever, and let's see how it works. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's drop this back on. And you'll make sure all 3 of those handles come through. My screw holes are lined up. Hopefully you can see that okay. I'm now just going to put these bolts back in. There's one right here. This is okay. Now let's see. Okay, let's tighten these up. And those we can't tighten too much because it's just plastic. Again. There we go. Just snug that. that one, and then the one down below. Okay, I hope I'm getting this. Okay, now the handle goes back on there. And a little Phillips. Holds that in place. Okay. All right. Let me just make sure that we're looking at what I'm looking at here. There, and the handle. Okay, we're good. So let's say I want to set this at 5. I'm going to move this up to around 5. I'm going to snug this down with the Allen wrench. Put the wrench back up here, and now you can see that there is no movement there, and I'm slamming it hard. So that is fixed. That's going to be a much better thing to deal with than what I had before. I even tried with some pliers to turn that plastic screw, but it really was all for naught, because without this top washer, that screw was just tightening that bushing. It wasn't actually clamping that much. So this is going to be a huge improvement. I'm not going to have to use my top link to raise and lower the mower up and down, which is what I ended up having to do. Is I would set this, not touch it again, and then when I would turn around at the end of each run, I would raise the mower up, turn around, and when I was ready, I would set the mower back down again with the top link. So there, I'd call that a huge success. I'm going to keep this Allen wrench right here in that little cubby so that I know I always have it. And it actually doesn't look bad either. It's just a screw with a washer down there. And I'm going to call this project done. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.